and welcome to the Ball Out NBA Pod, Season 2, Episode 9, Special All-Star Edition. This is your boy, Chris Bullock, coming in hot. Glad to see you guys back. Obviously, as y'all knew, today was the All-Star Game. You knew the Ball Out was going to be on it, and here I am. So, you're welcome in advance. Sorry about that, y'all. So obviously, recap of today's events. Pacers Domantas Sabonis wins the skills challenge. Golden State Warriors guard Steph Curry, the shooting god, wins the 3-point contest in a crazy last second shot, making that money ball to beat Mike Conley of the Utah Jazz. Actually, let me put some respect on his name. First time All-Star Mike Conley. So apologies to my Utah fans right there. I give props to them. First time since 1989 that they had three All Stars on the same team: Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, and Rudy Gobert. First time since Karl Malone, John Stockton, and a little known guy named Mark Eaton back in 1989. But that's neither here nor there. And then, of course, the All Star game: Team LeBron versus Team Durant, with Team LeBron winning 170 to 150, that target score. They combined for what was like 133 3-point attempts, which I love my shooting, but that's just that that's too many. But of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo, back-to-back MVPs, and of course he caps that off with the Kobe Bryant All-Star MVP going 16 for 16 in the game. And that is impressive in itself. I don't care. I mean, y'all saw the response that Reggie Miller gave when he took that last three, risking that perfect shooting percentage. Giannis doesn't shoot a lot of threes, but for him to make that one, obviously, that was special. So, kudos to Giannis, kudos to Team LeBron and to Team Kevin Durant. Between both of them, raised 1.75 million for HBCUs. Obviously, that's important. My co-host from a couple weeks ago, Marcus Thompson III, and another one of the men who I consider mentors, Mr. Bomani Jones, both fellow alums of Clark Atlanta University and represent them proudly. I'm not from an HBCU, but I have deep reverence for their importance to the Black community and all they've done for our fellow man. So I'm all happy about that. But, and then I'm sorry, I skipped on the dunk contest. Portland's Anthony Simons becoming the first Portland Trailblazer to ever win a dunk contest. I apologize if it seems like I just glanced over it. It really was just that forgettable. And this is somebody who loved the dunk contest growing up. Brent Barry, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady. I've even gone back and watched the old Dominique Wilkins, who was one of the judges. Spud Webb, another one of the judges. Kenny Smith, who also is one. And he was, on the commentary team this year's contest, though. I mean, no disrespect to Obi Toppin, no disrespect to Cassius Stanley or Anthony Simons. Obviously, great guys who can get it up. But even based on the response I saw on Twitter, man, like this was it was a snooze fest. And throw the shade if you want. That's okay. I can take it. But man, it was just I sat there in the middle of making dinner, and like as much as I tried to pay attention to it, I glanced over it. I ended up seeing who won, but the dunks this year weren't that great. Obviously, there had been talk going into this that Zion Williamson was going to put his name in there, and then he pulled out at the last second. The NBA should have told him, look, we will pay you, literally pay you $1 million to do this dunk contest because it needed the star power. It needed a name. Zion Williamson, y'all seen the YouTube clips. He is that name and would have brought legitimacy to this year's contest. So, I mean, granted, he wanted to save his legs for his first All-Star game. And hey, I wholly respect that. I do. But man, we needed him in the dunk contest. We needed somebody because this was Boo boo. But funny enough, even with all the exciting things that happened today during All-Star Day, that wasn't even the biggest story of the day. Now, I don't know about y'all East Coasters, but I woke up at 8 this morning, you know, pulled up my phone because I had to turn off my alarm, and I see the Twitter notifications. First thing I see, ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, Philadelphia 76er stars Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are in contact tracing because their barber tested positive for COVID, and it was originally inconclusive. They're just holding them out. But then he got tested again, had a second positive test, and they ended up being pulled out of the game altogether. Now, would they have made a difference in this game? Probably not. The All-Star game ain't necessarily the most competitive, and it's really not known for its defense. So it may not be much of a difference. But as y'all saw the last podcast I had with Marcus Thompson, we both talked in depth. As y'all have heard me most of this season, the NBA did not have to have this All-Star game. And especially in light of, remember, just last week they were postponing games. The Spurs had people out. The Pistons had people out. Like, this was not necessary. Now, granted, there's no long-term solution, and the NBA, they're in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. And I'm not being insensitive to that. I am a fan of the NBA in the game. I understand they had to do what they had to do. But going into the season, initially there was not supposed to be an All-Star game. And then all of a sudden, they had preliminary talks. Now, I'm not going to let the Players Association slide because ultimately they decided to go on with it anyway. And people will say, well, look at all the money they made for HBCUs. Yeah, that's all great and all, but guess what? The NBA has enough money that they could have still donated all that and not had an All-Star game. So do not come at me with the charity angle of this game. It was not necessary in any way, shape, or form. They could have done it without it. A lot of people I've talked to that are in the game or have close connections to the game, it even said, look, this isn't necessary. And in light of the news today with Embiid and Simmons, who both deserve to be in that game, to have to be pulled out because I'm going to say it, because of greed, that ain't right. It does not sit right with me. I'm pretty sure it doesn't sit right with them, though they understand. They'd already been held out of 7 games this season because of contact tracing and quarantine. So those two know firsthand just how much of a bummer this can be. Now, I know, being the basketball guy, being the big fan, I should be rooting for the NBA to succeed. I should have been rooting for this All-Star game and been excited about all this. But as a human being, as someone who genuinely cares, as someone whose family has dealt with COVID, has had friends who have had serious bouts with it, you know, as a fan of Karl Anthony Towns, who we've all seen this story with him over the last year. The interview he had where he announced he had COVID after already seeing 7 of his family members pass. I cried. I legitimately cried because if after everything that man had been through, and then he could have potentially been knocking on death's door. The NBA needs to do better by its players. Now, granted, you've got the vaccine, obviously, and California is starting to reopen little by little. Schools are going to be reopening. Amusement parks, sports venues are going to be opening in April, a little bit at a time, not full capacity just yet. But the fact that, the nation is starting to slowly come together, obviously the NBA feels like, okay, we're going to take our chances and we're going to try and make this work because we have to maintain some level of normalcy. But, I had a friend of mine on Twitter who he's somebody that has been watching this game for, damn near 50 years. And even he was just like, this was simply just a ploy to appease Time Warner. And to me, I could not justify watching this game. It was disgusting to me that they were still doing this. And it seems very blunt, but he ain't wrong. He ain't wrong. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who felt that way. Obviously, this is my job. This is what I do. I was going to watch the game because I owe it to y'all to be able to talk about it a little bit. And yeah, there were some great highlights, obviously, Steph with that poster dunk and followed by CP3. Like these are two guys, these are small guys that are going all the way up. And Steph Curry he ain't known for his dunking, obviously, but that man did put on a game. And granted, I'm not going to knock these players for wanting to put on a show for the fans. It's what they do. It's what they get paid to do. Much respect to them, you know. And ultimately, LeBron, who had initially said that, he was going to be there, but mentally he didn't feel like he should. He came out and performed, as he does, because he is a professional. These guys are professionals. So I'm not knocking him entirely. Thank you for providing us with the entertainment. I appreciate it. And thank you to the NBA for for providing us with entertainment in a time where the nation desperately needs it. I'm not going to sit here and be entirely thankless, but they owe it to themselves. They owe it to the players that are risking their health, long-term health, because we know we're long enough in the game now with COVID that we do understand some of these long-term symptoms. We know what it can do. We've heard college athletes, pro athletes that are like, yeah, man, like it's taken me months to shake off these symptoms. And these are people who keep their bodies at peak conditioning at all times. But the NBA owed it to its players to not have his game. They could have just let them rest for the weekend. As I mentioned, they had the money. They could have just donated it and been no problem. The game was not necessary. Yes, the show must go on. But as I've been saying all season, and I'm going to keep beating this drum, what happens when one of your star players gets seriously hurt? We've already seen Karl-Anthony Towns. We've seen Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, like you name it. And then the premier weekend of the season, even if Embiid and Simmons didn't test positive, the fact that they had to be held out, when is enough going to be enough? Adam Silver, as being the face of the league, he has to answer those questions. And we in the media need to be better at putting their feet to the fire. We do. There's no way around it. These players are the reason that we have jobs. This is fact. We owe it to the players. When they don't feel they can speak for themselves, we need to be able to speak for them. That being said, season's going to be starting up again March 10th. So second half of the season is going to be in full swing. Before you know it, we're going to be in the playoffs. Your boy here will continue to give you games of the week. We'll continue to have fun discussions, but we'll also continue to have serious discussions as needed, like this one. So I want to say thank you guys for continuing to tune in to the Ball Out Podcast. Catch us on YouTube at the Ball Out TV. Catch us on Instagram at The Ball Out. Catch us on Twitter at The Ball Out, Ball Out Sports, Ball Out News. Catch us on Facebook at The Ball Out Media. Until later this week, it's your host, Chris Bullock, signing off. Much love. Peace out.